your sales champion coach and founder of Why Sales Network. Y'all know I always got to do that. Just let me have it. Let me have my moments every once in a while, okay? Hey, thanks for joining me for Thursday Therapy. I have a co-host today with me, Miss Zena Eland. Zena, introduce yourself to our audience.
Hi, I'm Zena Island, and I wear a couple of hats, actually three. I have my own PR agency based out of Washington, D.C. area. I focus on multicultural type of projects, mainly in healthcare, tech, and social justice.
Okay.
And so that's one bucket. The other bucket is I do a lot of work in DEI and diversity, equity, and inclusion called Unmute with my partner, Emily Rosowski. And that's
Unmute for my
Unmute.
Instagram friends. Unmute.
Yes, Unmute is a very interesting DEI partnership that she and I have formed. And it's been very exciting. I'll talk more about that later. And then I have a podcast called Get Found, Get Funded. With two fabulous co-hosts, and we talk to entrepreneurs, underrepresented entrepreneurs in the tech and startup ecosystem. So, and we're recently getting ready to start talking about more about building Black and brown wealth. That's the direction we're heading.
Wow.
Yeah, because that's been a hot topic.
I need to be on that part. That is a hot topic.
You have an invitation.
Why, thank you. We need to put that on the calendar like ASAP.
We're going to put that on.
I love the unmute theme for diversity inclusion, but I tell you what, everyone, this Thursday therapy, and you guys know we come together for Thursday therapy so we can all just get a little therapy in. We kicked off Thursday therapy after I started to write my book, No Back Doors for Me. I put that book to bed last night. Yes. Woo-hoo! Oh my gosh. I put my book to bed last night. I hit send. The publisher has it. His editing team has the book over there at Self-Publish in 30 Days. You guys know those are my people. They've been with me since 2017, or maybe I've been with them since 2017. And we are now about to publish my 7th book, No Back Doors for Me, which is a memoir about my life in corporate America and just some of the things that I've done in corporate, some of the challenges that I've had. I hope that the book is helpful to women and especially, and women of color who've had these challenges in corporate. I really, at the end of it last night on that final chapter, I almost just kind of signed off almost with a love letter to just everyone, because it talks a lot about race. And I hope that my non-friends of color don't feel offended by it. It's my story, it's my truth. I put in there that in the African-American community, we have a couple of keepsakes, right? And one of those keepsakes is that we have always used the song and the power of song and music to pass down our stories from generation to generation, so that the different generations will know where to pick up at and how to pick up on the journey. And so I note in the book that this book, No Back Doors for Me, is my story and my song. And so I look, it's kicking off again January the 15th, and I hope that everyone go get your copy. You can get it on pre-sale on the website. But today we're going to talk about triggers. I was having a conversation with this beautiful woman you see on the screen here, and I don't know how the word triggers came up, but we began to talk about triggers and how sometimes something just triggers you emotionally. It gives you anxiety, it gives you stress. It's a reminder of something tragic or tragic experience or something that happened. And it happens a lot with our corporate life. And maybe you were coaching me about the trigger that I had to write the book. Tell us a little bit about what you found about triggers and share with the audience.
So, as I mentioned to you earlier, one of the hats that I wear is I work in diversity, equity, and inclusion, and I fell into that space. Well, I wouldn't say I fell into it. I've always worked in that space from a PR perspective. So, I've always worked with underrepresented communities, particularly underrepresented communities of color.
Yes.
especially in the healthcare area. You know, they've been talking about the health disparities with Black people since COVID and underlying
Always.
conditions. And they act like this is all new. It's not. And also, it's not just because we have these underlying conditions, it's also related to racism, systemic racism over the years that have caused for us to be, you know, in these categories of have the highest heart disease and die fast, you know, faster from cancer, high cholesterol. I mean, you see it all across the board that, you know, Black people have these, you know, these health disparities. So it's because of our environment. And so I've taken that over to what I'm doing with Unmute with Emily Rosowski, where we're having these discussions in the workplace about systemic racism and why, you know, certain things are happening. And really, we started this work 2 years ago to help bridge the gap between Black women and white women and start having those discussions. And then it moved over into the workplace, especially after George Floyd. So I'm saying all this because we're doing some work with corporations and, you know, listening to some of the stories, Blacks, you know, people who are Black and people who are not Black. It's just triggered some memories that I guess I pushed aside or didn't really think about or didn't want to think about it again.
Yeah.
And
have those triggers.
It triggered me. And also, I think about my parents and how they grew up, especially my father. My father grew up in the South, and listening to some of these stories that these people tell, it goes beyond me because I'm like, wow, this is interesting to hear your perspective and not think that there's something racist about it, you know, that because they don't think it is in a lot of cases.
They don't think it is in a lot of cases. And, you know, I got quite a few Instagram friends hopping on here. So hi, Instagram. You know, the Therapy Thursday section, again, is live on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, and then Instagram here in my home office. And so you're so right about triggers. You know, there was this TV show that was just, you know, people laughed, thought it was joking, but it's a TV show called Snapped, right? I don't know if you ever heard of it, but yes, and it's still on. I was strolling through the TV guide one evening and I saw it. And so to me, the whole thing about Snapped is about triggers, right? When, you know, it's politically incorrect to say it now, but a long time ago, there was many workplace violence and violence inside the post office. So if something happened inside the workplace, people would automatically say, you're going to make me go postal on you. Right. Remember that? Or they would say, oh, she went postal. Oh, he went postal. And I think all of that is due to triggers, things that triggered people and just made them, you know, it gave them a huge amount of anxiety. And it may not had that anxiety and that buildup, you know, like when they say that, oh, someone just, you know, let go and it wasn't necessary for them to let go because of what happened. It really wasn't because of what happened. It was because it triggered something else. And it was because the buildup of everything else that's sitting on your shoulders, that's sitting on your heart, that's sitting on your back, that's sitting on your neck, right? That's just sitting on your mind and driving and stressing you out emotionally.
Sure. So you heard about Shonda Rhimes, right? You heard about that whole story?
No, what happened?
Oh, okay. So just in case, this is great. I can share this.
Shonda Rhimes Instagram, she's sharing. Yeah.
And you all know Shonda Rhimes, Scandal.
Yes. Scandal. Yes. Grey's Anatomy.
Grey's Anatomy
still on.
All these great shows that she created. Well, the reason why she left ABC, and when you read the story, you're like, what? But then you read beyond it, and you keep reading on beyond the first paragraph. So basically, she left ABC because she needed tickets to Disney World, and you know, ABC, Disney World, that makes sense, right? So
yeah.
She was only given a certain amount of tickets, and so she went back and asked for more for her sister.
Yes.
And apparently her sister got to the gate and there wasn't a ticket for her. So she called and she, you know, was upset about it. And someone said, haven't we done enough for you? And Shonda said in this article I read, she hung up the phone, she picked up the other line and called her attorney and said, we're moving everything over basically to Netflix. Let's cut this deal happen. But it wasn't because of the ticket. It was just years and years of whatever she was going through. And I'm going to just say it for her, racism that she was experiencing. And she's bringing in ABC all this money. So she snapped.
The best shows.
And she didn't snap and she didn't go postal, but she used her power. She used her power and she took her show over to Netflix.
Wow.
I love
when you think about How to Get Away with Murder, Grey's Anatomy, Scandal, you know, all of the great work that Chandra has done over there. And you know what, and you know, the sad part about that is that sometimes it's not even the person with any power. Like they say, your receptionist, your frontline people can make or break you.
Yes.
Right? Or make or break your business, your frontline people, the people that answers your phone, the people that, you know, are your direct contact to for your company to the public, right? And so it was probably that person that felt that they had the nerve or audacity, because I've experienced that before, to say that, right?
Can you believe that? So
and now they've cost that organization so much money, billions. I'm sure billions. Sandra's making millions. Trust they're earning billions, right?
Might be billions. I mean, I don't know the money, but I know it's a lot. And Scandal with itself was a groundbreaking show. So yeah. So you know, if you get a moment, just pull that article up.
I'm gonna Google as soon as we hang up off of this podcast.
And what I mean by a wonderful story, it's sad that she had to go through that silently while we all been cheering her on, like, yeah, right. She's been going through. You know, look, I'm a Black woman too, and hey, this is not easy over here. Even though I'm bringing money in, and I can't even get a ticket for my sister for Disneyland. So
right, it should have been like, oh, your family's coming, Chandra. Let us send a private golf cart to pick them up at the car. And you know, and that's, you know, so with me, I'm all about the experience. You know, we have a sales conference coming up, and I know this is getting a little bit, but you know, I'm like, okay, well, let's make sure we give these people, you know, although it's virtual, let's send them a bag, right? We sent wine bags out this year and wine glasses. You know, Monica had these little wine glasses made that said Wine Sales Networking. It's all about the experience.
Right.
So, you know, you want to make sure that Sandra Ryan have the experience. If her sister's coming to Disney, you want her sister to go back and just report back to having the greatest experience ever. But that is the perfect example of a trigger. When Disney said to her, or whoever that was, right? Because I'm sure it's not, whoever that was said, haven't we done enough for you, to a Shonda Rhimes, that it triggered her. It triggered her to how she had been, I'm sure, you know, maybe how she had been mistreated in some other spaces.
I know.
And maybe even how she had been mistreated there and just had enough.
And I think that's exactly what it came down to is how she was treated there over the years, and just, you know, she just had enough. And finally she just said, you know what? I don't have to take this. And she doesn't. She really did. And I love that story, because she used her power. She used her power, her truth, and she was able to pivot and make that move and say, I'm not taking this anymore. Even the example with Dave Chappelle, you know, asking Netflix not to allow Comedy Central to show his old show. Yes. And they listened. And I have to, you know, commend Netflix for doing that. So yes. I know these are celebrity examples, because I want to boil down to, you know, the everyday, you know, what's happening with us, you know, people watching George Floyd dying the way he did.
Triggers. Again, just, you know, that triggered the protest, because people have had enough. And, you know, and I put that also, you know, when I talk about, I put the book, No Back Doors for Me to Rest last night. I put in a book. I said, you know, African American people will continue to contribute to the best inventions and theory and technology and compassion of the world. We will, but we're tired.
We're tired.
We're tired, and the chapter is joy interrupted, right? So it's like we have this joy, but it's always interrupted about something.
Mhm.
We just want to live fully in our joy, right?
Right.
Just
Right.
to live fully in our joy. And so as long as it takes, we're just going to have to continue to do the work. Um, you know, Unfortunately, it's very unfortunate, but I love that people are standing up and
And that's the
for themselves.
key. We have to stand up. We have to stand up for each other when those who cannot.
Yes.
But there are people in the workplace who cannot say anything because they don't want to lose their jobs. And then there are others who can speak up for them. I've seen that happen.
Yes.
So it's just important that as a people, we all help each other out as much as possible. Because you don't know, it could be the smallest thing that can trigger something that you remember that happened to you. And especially if it's involving race. And that person may not say anything, they can't. And
Mhm.
for whatever reason, they have to be silent. And so that's when we have to step in there and
Yes. and,
talk,
and just
and
try to
support
stop,
them.
try to stop all the hate. I know, I every time someone posts something on LinkedIn, I see there's someone that goes and put an angry comment on it. And so someone's probably, this particular podcast, someone's probably gonna put an angry post out there. And even with that, I'm like, the audacity for you to do that, meaning that you don't even care about the company that you work for, your exposure, your relationships. I mean, I I know, as working in oil and gas for so many years, there are cities that I visited that I didn't see anyone that looked like me, even when I went to the McDonald's or a fast food place. And so, but it's interesting that people are so comfortable spreading their hate. It could be a positive, it could just be something positive, and people, they don't agree with it, and they will put something very hateful in the post. And I just find that's can make people snap. That's a trigger,
It is.
right?
Yeah,
That's a
it is.
trigger.
Exactly. And so that's a trigger when you see the angry post of they call it, right, I guess it's white fragility. I think that's what they call it, because they don't quite
Yeah.
understand what's happening with African Americans and Black and brown people, and why are we so vocal about being treated fairly in this country. And
Right.
I just think that they have the protection of racial stress, and they don't understand that they have
Mhm.
that protection. They have the privilege of the color of their skin. They don't understand that. And so that's why sometimes there's so much miscommunication and information out there, and our country is so divisive right now. And
Yes.
and to be honest with you, it saddens me because of the way I grew up. I grew up in an area where it was not many Black people, but I didn't feel threatened because of the color of
Yes.
my skin at all. I was accepted. And although my mom warned me and told me things are going to change when I started college, and she was right. She told me, she said, "You're going to be in for a rude awakening, because the way you living right now, this is not how the real world is." And she was right.
So unfortunate.
Very,
So
very unfortunate.
when we talk about triggers, and triggers again, for our audience on Instagram, hey Instagram, and LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. Triggers are things that their incidents are things or something that's said that brings on a great deal of stress or anxiety for you because it relates to something else that happened, maybe tragically, or just like I said, in a workplace when you've just been enduring so much and you're just like, enough, right? And you just have that moment. And like I said, it's almost like that picture snapped. But Zine, why don't you share with our audience, because time just
I
flies.
know
Wow.
it does. I can't believe we're almost done.
Share with our audience some of the things that they can do when they are triggered, when they experience these triggers. What are some of the things they can do to work through it?
So I'm a part of a mastermind group, and one of them is a coach, and she and I talked for a couple of hours one day, and she told me something that I thought was really interesting. She said, whenever you feel the anxiety or you feel that tenseness, put your
Yes.
hand over your heart or put your hand where the tension is. So if
And
you
put your
feel that,
hand over your heart, Instagram.
right, hand over your heart or wherever that tension, it could be your heart, it can be, because it's usually my tension's in my chest.
Mine's in
So
your shoulder.
if yours is in the show, just put, just casually just put it over here. And that
Put my
way
hand on my
it's
shoulder.
letting yourself know, you know what, this is a trigger. This is uncomfortable. I need to calm down and, be able to get through this rationally, right? Because we get so
Breathe.
upset. Breathe is another technique. I have a friend, Ananda
Yes.
Leek. She is a self-care coach, and she talks about the importance of breathing. And even though I look at her sometimes like you in La La Land, but it's true.
Taking those
You
deep
gotta
breaths.
take a deep breath and let it out, and before you respond. And sometimes the other thing you do, you respond with a question so that you can repeat to that person
Yes.
what they just said, so they can hear it out loud, and maybe that will give them a chance to to reel it back or hear
I
it.
like that one. I like that one. So, you kind of put the onus on the person when someone says something rude or nasty, or just something that triggers you. You say it back to them out loud,
Out
right?
loud.
And
Yeah.
I recall doing a show with the college students right when everything happened, because I didn't want them to put themselves in a situation to risk their young lives and careers and their futures, right? So we talked about how we can handle some of those things. And what I said to them was, you really don't have to have that conversation then.
Mm-hmm.
You can tell that person, when that trigger happens, instead of, sometimes just like I said, you may just snap, but if you didn't, then you just feel that anxiety and things build up, share with that person, is it possible? Because a lot of times, when it happens, it's unscheduled. People just come into your face and they hit you with something, or they call you and they hit you with something, right? It's unscheduled, and they're looking
Exactly.
to catch you off guard. So you don't have to have that conversation then. You can say to them, I remember one time I said to this guy, because he was screaming at me, and we're like in a warehouse environment, he's screaming at me. And I said, I think this has gotten out of hand. Do you think I didn't say that. I said, I think this has gotten out of hand. Is it okay with you if we schedule some time to revisit this conversation tomorrow?
And it's okay to do that.
And he caught himself. He caught himself. He realized that he was out of control, right? And so he caught himself and he said, yeah, sure, right? And then also I was sharing with the college students that if someone wants to call you and talk about race and what's going on, you don't have to have that conversation right then. You tell them, you know what, I respect you as a friend. I appreciate you calling. Just thank them. Thank you for calling and for your interest and concern. Why don't you go and watch Roots, or why don't you go watch 12 Years a Slave, or why don't you go read this book, or what have you? Give them a homework assignment, something that is of interest to you, that resonated with you. And when they go and they watch that video or that mini series or read that book, tell them to call you after they look at that. And then you guys, have lunch, or, well, now you're going to have a conference call. You can eat while you're having a conference call, though, but have a conference call and talk about it. But you don't, people always think you have to respond to them and you have to do something right away. And you don't. It is your right. You don't have to respond right then. Even if it's your boss or, your spouse, you can just say, you know what, can we talk about this at another time?
Exactly. Yeah, you can do that. And then maybe that person will reevaluate what they said. And then it gives you a chance to gather your thoughts without having that outburst. One thing I do, and I have to say this before, because I know we're running out of time, because, I'm going to say this. I am not a DEI expert. I'm making this very clear. There are so many people out here who are doing this work, and they've been doing it a very good job at it, and I'm learning every single day. I'm reading a book called Allies and Advocates by Amber Cabral, and I'm just reading this book, and it's amazing what she wrote. And there are so many people out here who have been fighting this good fight for a very long time before you started hearing about DEI.
Oh, it's so mainstream, right?
Yeah, it's mainstream now. So I just want to make that clear. I'm not an expert, but I'm just sharing some of my experiences. I'm also working with an incredible partner on this. And but the one thing I do when I'm triggered or when I'm stressed, or even after I finish up some of my conversations that I have with people from Unmute, I work out. I go for a bike ride. I used to run, go for a bike ride, or if you are into either one of them, take a walk.
Yeah, take a walk. Just walk and get that fresh air. Even if it's not fresh air, just take a walk. Something I do too is just stretch. They say we should just stretch. I've gotten to that thing where I sit in my office and I just, did I hear my phone pop? And I might need to go exercise. But just stretch. I find when you just stretch your body out and your energy and things, that helps as well.
Exactly. So, those are some of the things, and just be aware of them. Try to be aware of some of your triggers, and call somebody. I know sometimes we're taught, I know I was, to keep everything bottled up. That's not good. Yeah. It's very we
don't do that anymore. We talk now. Yeah,
we have to
talk to people. Yes.
Talk to somebody, especially right now, because we're in a pandemic. People are at home, and some of us, I have my dog here, so he's been keeping me company. There are people who are at home by themselves. They'll have, they need that face-to-face, that interaction. They're not getting it. So it's best to pick up the phone and call somebody and talk to them in case you are feeling that way. And so remember that, someone that you can trust.
So, we're out of time already. It just goes so fast. Half an hour. And, we had a great story about Chandra to kick off with. Thank you for sharing that. And, and just how we can empower ourselves. But I want to recap, your triggers. When you're triggered by something, you don't have to respond to people right away. You have a right to walk away and come back to that. And you also, you can exercise. Exercise is proven. It's great for all of us. We need to exercise. Take some deep breaths. But I want to give everyone a homework assignment about triggers. You just said something. What are your triggers? And I think we need to identify some things. I think we need to identify some trauma or something that we've experienced, and maybe just some triggers that we've had recently. So if we have a homework assignment for our listeners for this Thursday therapy, go and look up something on triggers. Go Google triggers, what have you. As my mom say, ask to Google, and just find out about triggers. Understand what your triggers are. Think about the last time you were triggered, and then begin to figure out how you are going to respond in that moment when you are triggered.
Awesome.
So, wow, it's time out already. Zena, thank you so much. How can people find you if they want to communicate with you?
So you need to go to Xina PR, and that's XINA, P as in Paul, R as in Robert.com. So XinaPR.com. Or you can find me on Instagram at Xina Island. And Island is spelled E-I-L-A-N-D. E-I-L-A-N-D. First name, Xina, X-I-N-A. Xina Island PR on Instagram. And then I have all these different names. And X-E-I-L-A-N-D on Twitter. So I'm everywhere. I'm on LinkedIn. It's easy to find me. You can Google my name. Believe me, you'll find me.
You'll find you. Well, thanks again to our audience who's joining. I am Joyce Johnson, and all my brands are I am Joyce Johnson on all platforms. And I'm the founder of Wise Sales Network. Please go and follow all of our Wise Sales Network pages. Connect to us on LinkedIn. We have a lot of really great things coming. And for the month of December, we have a webinar next month. We're going to continue this conversation around stress and anxiety, what have you. So we have a webinar next week, I should say. Next week it is on the 9th at 6 p.m. Central Time, just about mental illness, emotional illness, and health. And so put that on your calendar. Go sign up at our website, www.ysalesnetwork.com. Join us in that conversation. It is a very important conversation to have, if not for yourself, for someone else, because we never know when we'll have to help our fellow sisters and brothers. As they say, am I my brother's keeper? Yes, I am. I am Joyce Johnson. This has been Thursday Therapy. Make it a great week. Thank you.
Thank you.